Tim, if you could go back on that journey that got you together with your brother, because I remember the story and hearing about it that you were going to phase out and go into the world of sports agency. And I don't know if people here in the Valley really follow that story that closely. And I'd mentioned it a few places, and they're like, really? So, how close did you come to not doing what you're doing now and going down that path?
So, I mean, I did go down that path with John Rahm for a year and a half. I was his agent, and when I started caddying for Phil, it was supposed to be a part-time deal. I was just going to caddy for the rest of the year until he was able to find a new full-time caddy. And at the end of our stretch of 9 or 10 events, he offered me the job, and I had to think about it very quickly. And I'm like, it'll be pretty cool to be able to be part of Phil's career, and it's something I jumped on. And I do want to say though that John was very understanding because John Rahm and I have a great relationship,
Hmm.
and to not be able to continue working with him because each person needs a full time. John needs a full time caddy, and Phil needed a full time. I'm sorry, John needed a full time agent, and
Yep.
Phil needed a full time caddy, and so I had to choose between the two. But John's been nothing but great and understanding, and we're still great friends to this day.
How did you navigate that? Was it, and when Phil came to you about this, was it like you said, you jumped at the chance, but you had to go through some hoops, I'm sure.
Of course, I had to think about it because John was just starting his career, and Phil at the time, I think, being around 46, certainly not as young as John, and so had to think about that. But there's nothing more important than family, and if I could be a positive influence on his career in some way, even if it was for 5, 6, 7 years, I wanted to do that, and I felt like as his brother, I sort of I don't want to say owed it to him, but deserved to be part of it.
I had Gary McCord on earlier this week, and he said, there's people that could see this coming with Phil. Could you see this coming?
So I saw it coming simply because for the last 4 or 5 months, he's actually been playing really well. He just hasn't been, he had not been scoring well.
Hmm.
One day maybe his putting was off, and the next day it might have been short game. Whatever it was, he just wasn't able to score well. We saw a little bit of brilliance at Charlotte when he opened it, 7 under for the first round. So he and I both saw it coming. We just didn't know if it was going to be the PGA Championship or this week at Colonial or who knows, maybe the U.S. Open. And luckily for us, everything clicked last week over at Kiowa.
When did you feel like it was clicking?
Well, I mean, the way he played the entire week,
Hmm.
uh, even just starting on Tuesday with the practice rounds, like you knew that he was really playing well, that things were all sort of the stars were aligning, so to speak. Uh, but you still have to go out and execute, and you don't know what the
Right.
wind conditions and all that. But we were very fortunate. He played great all 4 days, and it was enough.
So on Tuesday, it's like this is going to be a good week in your mind, in both your minds.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. I think early in the week we both knew that it was going to be a good week. You can never say, "Hey, I'm going to win this week," and
Right.
then
Sure.
have it happen. But
Sure.
honestly, Brad, 2 weeks ago we were at a family dinner, and he flat out said, "I'm going to win again soon because I'm just hitting the ball too well. I'm playing too good."
Hmm.
And I tried to rein him in a little bit like I usually do and just said, well, let's just make sure we get in contention on Sunday. And from there, we'll see what happens. But it was literally the very next event that he goes out and wins.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I'm getting more questions about the mental side, fans asking about that
Hmm.
whole mental side that was so emphasized during the broadcast. If you could go into that a little bit.
Yeah. Phil is a very focused individual when it comes to golf and just competition, but he sometimes allows himself to think too far ahead of himself. If let's say we're 3 under par through 5 holes, but we still have four par fives and the drivable par four. He in his mind, he's like, hey, well, if we birdie those and we birdie that, okay, I'll be 8 under. Now, what else do I have to do? And so lots of times I just have to bring him back to the present and just say, look, the only shot we have to think about is the next one. But this week there was this just calm presence about himself. He didn't allow himself to get ahead. He never made those comments like he does oftentimes. Um, but I also try to keep reassuring him during the week, just to, hey, let's not think about it. Let's quiet our mind. Let's just,
Hmm.
we'll worry about the next shot when we get there. And I think that played a big part that he was able to stay present in the moment.
Are you talking like paralysis by analysis, just overthinking?
Oftentimes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oftentimes just getting too far ahead and thinking, okay, what's going to happen? How can I shoot this? instead of focusing on the very next shot, because you're just wasting energy at that point. And so in a week of a major, you really can't waste energy and expect to be at your best coming down the stretch. And so we wanted to save as much energy as we could coming down the stretch. And I'm not talking physical energy, obviously, it's more mental energy.
Right.
And so we were able to do that very well last week. And hopefully it's something that we can continue to do, because if so, it could be a very special rest of the year.
Okay, so how do you balance that then, Tim? I guess it's you're the one that is pouring into him, but at the same time, you have to know
Hmm.
I got to take my pedal off the metal off the pedal there with him.
Yeah.
How do you
So
balance that?
something I did last week, and I'll probably try to continue to do, is just talk to him more in between shots. And by talking to him and being engaging with him, we can basically keep each other's mind away from golf. There's
Hmm.
no reason to think about our next shot for the 250 yards that we're walking up to it. We don't know the lie. We don't know if it's a putt, if it's going to break right to left or whatever. Let's just not worry about it. Let's just talk. How did the Suns do last night? Did you
There
watch the
you
game?
go.
Whatever it is, let's keep our mind off of golf until it absolutely has to be on golf. And then let's get hyper focused and let's execute what we need to execute. And then we can talk about something else.
Where did you learn it in your skill set for him?
I think I learned things like this in general just from coaching for so long, because
Hmm.
every player is different. So how John Rahm needs to be coached and talked to during the round is different than Phil Mickelson, which is different than any of the other players that I coached in college. But then just through time being around Phil, the more and more I'm around him, the more and more I get to know him and know what things are going to trigger him in a positive way or a negative way.
Yeah. Your phone been ringing off the hook saying, "I can't believe you were there," and handling all that stuff. Like it's had to have been a surreal, cool week for you.
It was definitely a surreal week. Yeah, phone's been going off nonstop. The messages from Twitter and Instagram from people I don't know, saying congrats and how fun it's been to listen to our conversations on the course about clubs and all that. It's been
Yeah.
a special week, and any caddy treasures and cherishes a win, but very few get to experience a major championship win,
Hmm.
and a major championship win at this level being 50 years of age. It was absolutely incredible, and something I'll remember obviously for the rest of my life.